Coming up on More Than Before.
As a parent, it's overwhelming. I have 3 sons. Those are the 3 biggest people I'm mentoring. And they look at me. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a dad? What does it mean to be a husband?
This is More Than Before with Nathan Cook.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I am so excited to have my good friend on today, whom I've known for a number of years through the coaching world. He is the owner of Wheeler Coaching. He's an author of multiple books on leadership, growth, mindset, personal development. He is a father, a husband, and he truly has a huge heart to help leaders in the community. Randy Wheeler, welcome to the program. How are you doing, brother?
Doing well. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm curious to kind of start off. What's going on in your world? What are you excited about? And, we're getting ready to move into the fourth quarter. Time is ticking for the end of the year. What are you looking forward to for the end of the year?
I'm looking forward to new opportunities professionally with possibly some new clients. I have a whole leadership academy that I put together. I'm looking forward to turning that into a digital program that people can tap into. Not sure on the timeline when that's going to get done yet, but
we're going to put that on the timeline right now. No.
Yeah. Let's put that on the timeline right now. That's right. Looking forward to, by the end of this, on a personal level, on the end of this year, see how a semester at college for my oldest son has shaped and helped him grow as a person. So that'll be fun to see what happens there.
It's kind of crazy to hear you talk about having a child in college, because we're at the complete opposite end of the spectrum for children in school. We're just slowly migrating into school, and I'm looking at it going, oh my goodness. So I am curious, like, what does that do mentally when you think about that, of like, man, I have a college student. Like, how does that hit you?
I'm old.
Well, that's not good, because I already feel old half the time.
No, it's been interesting. A couple things. One, I'm not like, I'm starting to feel like I'm growing into being one of the older people in the room. So it's like, I'm like, oh, I don't know how to handle this.
You're going to bed early. You're like, hey guys,
well, that's been a thing for a long time, But just I'm the older person in certain rooms, and I think what's hard on some level is figuring out, because I've always just naturally gravitated towards finding people further along and tapping into their wisdom and everything. So it's more kind of who are the people I want to tap into, because at this stage of life, it's like life's a little messy for people. So I want to tap into the right people. And I'm talking like, I have mentors that are close but yet far. And then it's just mentors, people close to me, easily accessible in my own community. The other one is, I was just talking to my wife the other day, and I was saying, so 5 years from now, when our youngest is in college, what's her life going to be like? And for the first time, it was one of those things where she actually felt like she could think about it, because before she was just like, surviving, because our kids are little, and 5 years from now, I still want to be surviving. So just as a couple, just trying to figure out, okay, what's life look like? And not just like, oh, we're going to go travel and this and that, but like purposefully, like, what's life gonna look like? And then I think with having a kid in college, it's like, oh gosh, have I done what at this point now? It's like, parenting is different. So I'm always a parent, but it's like, okay, managing that, letting go and tapping in, because it's just every stage is a little different. Where when they're real young, it's you're telling them a lot what to do, and as they get older, it's learning to let go and guide, and when to advise, and
that's a tricky situation when they get older, and you can't just tell them what to do and they do it. It's more of a mind game.
Yeah, I don't know that my kids have ever just done what I asked them to do.
Mine either, but I pray that maybe someone out there, maybe all of you listening, maybe someone has actually experience that where their kids actually do what they're asking them
Right,
to
right.
do.
When they ask right away, and
Yeah,
then they
the
go
first
off
time.
and they keep doing that as they're adults.
Yeah. I love it. So now you grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and Cincinnati, Ohio. Like, tell me how does that work? How do you grow up in two places at once?
Well, I don't grow up in two places at once. I was born in Memphis, and I lived there until I was 7, and then all my schooling years were in Cincinnati, Ohio. And when I was a senior in college, my junior year in college, my parents give me a phone call. They're like, "Hey, Dad has an opportunity to get a job transfer to Puerto Rico." And I just was like, "Okay, I got 2 questions. 1, will you sell the house easily?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Great, good for you." 2, can I visit you? Yes. Okay, go. Because I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest of 2, so I'm like, go.
Yeah.
And then after visiting them for a Christmas break for 3 weeks, I was like, I'm definitely not coming back here after I graduate from college. I love you, Mom and Dad, but I don't want to be stuck on an island with you.
So, what was childhood like for you growing up? You know, maybe specifically when you were in Memphis. What was your childhood like? What were the dynamics of your family? Who were you as a kid?
Goodness, I don't remember a lot from 0 to 7. I mean, the stories I could tell are just like random stories, like choking on a marble, falling on concrete floor, car driving into our backyard when I was about 7. Those things I don't remember a whole lot from there, but from 7 when I moved through the rest through 18 when I went to college. Very supportive home, very structured home, very principled home, but not. I'm a person of faith. My parents aren't necessarily that, but very real and honest. There was nothing we wouldn't talk about at the dinner table. I mean, anything we'll talk about. I learned. We didn't have birds and the bees talk. We just talked about stuff at the dinner table. It all came out, kind of thing.
As long as the birds and the bees just didn't exist while you were
Right.
at the dinner
Right.
table.
Right. My parents set boundaries very well. It was very structured, very disciplined. Not rigidly disciplined, though, because as we got into the teenage years, it was like, you messed up. What do you think should be the consequence? So they modeled that well, probably better than I modeled in my kids sometimes.
I feel like that's very true most of the time in parenting. As we think back, oh, my parents did this so much better than I'm doing this, which is kind of funny to think about. When you think back to how your parents raised you, I'm curious, what are those golden lessons that you want to continue in teaching your kids right now? Like, what are some of the ones that you feel like you've actually instilled in them? And what are some of those ones that, as you've grown older with your folks, what are some of those lessons that you want to continue to pass down to your kids so you have that same kind of dynamic, or maybe even better?
I think the biggest lesson, just kind of an overarching life lesson, is, if you do something you love, you won't feel like you're working a day of your life. It's a kind of a nuanced shift because, it might have been taught to me, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, your work still feels like work sometimes. There's things, I enjoy what I do. I've enjoyed what I've done my whole adult life, but there's days it's like, this is work. And it's just not, some things are not fun. I mean, maybe some people, when you get to a certain point, that's all you can do. It's just that one thing, but, and how that's translated with my kids is, my oldest is 19, my second is 17, my youngest is 14. Just helping them understand themselves, even through objective things I've just stolen from my own, things that I use with people and clients. And then helping them understand what's your passion. My middle child, we did an assessment thing with him, and it revealed that he's like, I think I like carpentry. So I'm like, okay, let me connect you to a friend of mine. He does that. He spent all summer, and actually he does some during the year because he's got like a lot of time on his hands as a senior right now.
That means he's a good student, though, right?
Yes, he is a good student. He is a very good student. and he worked with him, and he's actually figured out, hey, I like this, but I don't think I'm going to do it the rest of my life. So just trying to create those opportunities. That I think that's like the biggest thing, I think, that, and then being authentic. I mean, it wasn't taught to us from my parents, but I think both sides of our family, my parents and my wife's parents, they're all authentic. We are who we are. We're not worried about keeping up with the Joneses, and I think that's been kind of, we do us and not worry about trying to keep up with other people, and it seems to work out well.
Yeah. So when you were in high school, like what category? I always like to ask the question because I find it kind of interesting based off of kind of who you were in high school versus kind of who you turn out to be. We all kind of have different friend groups in high school. Maybe some weren't great, some are great. We kind of fall into different categories. What category would you say that you were in high school? Were you, out there popular? Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, Randy, he just walked past me."
No, I wouldn't put myself in that category. I call it a floater.
Okay.
So, I had a kind of a personal life-changing experience my freshman year, just related to my faith and everything, and that shifted how because I was involved in sports. I played football and everything, and so I'd think certain people I'm not going to talk to you because you're in band or whatever, but then things changed, and I started to be the person that it didn't matter. It didn't matter if back in the day. I don't know what they're called now. If they're still called goth, I think they are. I saw something on like Yahoo talking about gothic people, like
I don't know. They went emo at one point, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it was emo, and I think now it's back to goth again.
I think it is. I think it might. I have to ask my kids probably, but it didn't matter if it didn't matter to me what lane you preferred. I was just like, I'll be friends with you. I don't care. I kind of had just lots of different people groups. I never was, even being an athlete, it wasn't like and even as an adult, I'm not real good. I don't know if I'm not real good. It's just not, I'm not a cliquey kind of guy. I'm like, it's hard. It's hard for me to just settle in with a few people, but I'll be really real, really transparent with anybody, probably bordering on too much information sometimes. I mean, I think that's how I am. You've known me for a while enough, and we're not like hanging out every day because, you're on the West Coast and I'm over here on the East Coast.
Well, I love that you say that, though, because I do remember, we kind of passed back and forth, around each other for quite some time. But I don't know if you remember this, but one of the times I feel like we really, really connected. It was like the end of a long conference day, and you were sitting in a lobby area, and I was over there, and I don't remember, there was something in the air that was just weird. It might have been an election year, just like right now, and people were just so vocal about it, and it was just like blah 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 blah, and I remember just coming over to you. I don't think you said anything. It was just something I sensed with you. I was just like, man, isn't it just nice to just love on people and not care like about all of the, it's kind of like you have your own sports team, like, oh, go Bengals or whatever team you have. Bengals are still a team, right? I don't know. They may have changed branding, or they might live in Singapore. Who knows? But there's something about that with you, that community is kind of you're welcoming. It's not necessarily that you are establishing a community and making sure that, hey, I'm going to stay here forever. It's more of like, hey, you go in, check on people, and there's a deep relationship with that. You're a connector in that way, and I've always appreciated that about you. So it sounds like that was kind of who you were even in high school, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know this phrase as well as I do, but for some reason, even before I heard it over and over and over again, I feel like it kind of resonates with me as just adding value to people. How can I don't consciously think about it, but I'm like, I mean, No, I'm opinionated, and I can be a real jerk. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I, I'm just like you. Okay, you like purple. I like orange.
You're
I'll
dead to me,
completely
Randy. I can't
disagree
believe
with
you.
your orange.
I can't
or
believe
your,
you could even love purple. What kind of color is it now? Yeah.
just it just doesn't do me any good to create division and
Yeah. We're better off
but
working
I'm not.
together.
But at the same time, I don't think I'm necessarily the people pleasing type. I'm just
Yeah.
like I'm gonna be me, you be you, and let's just get along. And I guess if we can't, we just won't talk a lot.
So, so going out of high school, then, so you graduate from high school. What was the plan at that point? Like, what was the big dream that you had?
Actually, coming out of high school, I thought I was gonna go into youth ministry, and I went to school and learned about that, and learned about sports science, and learned about Bible, and did actually, after doing the sports performance internship down in Orlando, Florida, with the guy who used to be the strength coach for the Orlando Magic years ago, actually decades ago now, uh, and and then I moved up to Indianapolis and had spent 2 years doing youth ministry, and just kind of decided, you know what, this isn't the right fit for me. No anger, no bitterness, no like issue. Just I had other skill sets and other ways to make an impact through that, and that led me into sports performance and working at a university for a while, and then getting a teaching license, going in schools, and I was in a couple different schools where I was a sports performance coach or strength and conditioning coach, and then life kept shifting and my desires kept changing. It's like every decade there's a little shift. I remember having a conversation with somebody at their house, and like he said, yeah, about every 10 years I have this little shift of what's next. And since I'm approaching a new decade quickly, I'm kind of in that. Okay.
You're in that mode of, oh no, it's coming. What
Yeah.
am I shifting to next?
Well, kind of. I mean, it's still going to be the same, but look different. I mean, especially, children out of the house. It's a new stage of life, and it's like, hey, how can I broaden my impact? How can I reach more people and make a difference in more people's lives?
I love that so much. You've mentioned sports a number of times, and I think sports can be one of those things that people can lose identity in. At the same time, it also can create and facilitate a great way to really identify who you are and really test who you are too, your mettle, your like perseverance through difficult times. I'm curious, what are some of the things that you learned about yourself? Was it just specifically football that you played, or did you play other sports on top of that?
So in high school, I played just football. I did get into like powerlifting, a little bit of powerlifting. I wrestled in junior high, but I liked to eat too much to do it in high school because back in my day, there were no like boundaries around it. I knew a kid who came into the season at 130, 140, cut down to 103, and you just in the halls, you're like, oh, stay away from him. He is grumpy. And then, I played other sports as a kid, baseball, soccer, and everything. But football was the one I kind of stuck with through the end of high school. I didn't love it enough to do it in college. So there's so much to learn from sports, and that's why I enjoyed being a strength and conditioning coach. Why I enjoy coaching even my own sons. The biggest thing is teamwork. Understanding the world doesn't revolve around you, and you have a role to play, and you do the best you can at that. And then the hard work. When I was a strength and conditioning coach, I always told parents in these parent meetings, I want them to learn the discipline and responsibility it takes to accomplish a goal and become better leaders at whatever they do. And I think of somebody in my life that right now has a dream of making a team, and they got to put in a lot of work because it's a sport where there's a limited number of spots because kind of all the other spots are kind of sort of spoken for ish, and he's gotta put in some work and
Professional archery, right?
It is. Underwater basket weaving.
Yeah, that was going to be my second guess.
So yeah, it's just the discipline, and even if you don't accomplish that goal, there's so much learned in the journey. Now, I think I can say that at this stage, that I just back then I'm still learning how to enjoy the journey.
Yeah,
because I'm kind of goal oriented.
I love that you've studied leadership so much, and even just, we would call you probably a natural leader, I would say. Someone that, because of your hard work, because of your tenacity to move things forward, I would say you're a natural leader. We all know that there is no such thing, right? You still develop yourself to become a better leader. But I am curious from your perspective, because you've been around the sports world, you were in it as a young kid. Why do you think the discipline to accomplish goals has gone down over the years, and what do you think is a solution to that for our young people? Because you are around young people pretty often. How do you teach that pursuit of achieving a goal, not just the pursuit of setting a goal?
Well, I think it starts with a burning desire. I mean, you got to have a desire. I mean, like with this person I'm talking about, I had a conversation with this person. I'm like, hey, are you ready to go all in on this? Are you ready to go all in on this pursuit? Because it's gonna take effort. It's gonna take commitment. It's gonna take doing it when you don't feel like it. And they were like, yeah. I think without a burning desire and a passion for it, that's one piece. And the other thing that I think is hard, not just for young people, but for adults too, is there's too much distraction. I mean, it could be as easy as you and I working in our work day, and we have 10 different things open on our computer, 10 different tabs, and I'm like, oh, let me check over here. Let me check over here. Let me check over here. Or, oh, let me look at my phone. Oh. I mean, but young people don't have as much self-discipline because they just haven't developed it yet, so that makes it harder. And if they don't have people in their homes that are helping them intentionally figure that out, then it's going to be a slower process of learning it. Whether that's because of all the dynamics in homes. There's so many different dynamics in homes, whether they live in two homes. I mean, half the kids live in two homes. I mean, that's just a statistical fact.
Yeah.
So I think those are three of the factors. You got to have a passion for whatever it is, the discipline to stay focused, and then support to help you learn through the process of whatever you're pursuing. And I say that applies not just to young people, but I think it applies to you and me as well.
What I love about what you just said is I think you're a living, breathing testament to those 3 points. Having a burning desire, persevering and pushing through. You really do. You live that out on a daily basis. One of the things I think that's really interesting about your story, you're one of the few people, I know everyone here probably knows someone that has become a quote unquote entrepreneur, right? They burn the ships behind them. Don't burn the ships, by the way. That's the worst. That is the worst advice you could get. Like, leave amicably. Tell your boss, like, hey, I'm going to pursue this. Thank you for the opportunity. Do not burn a bridge. Just don't do it. But I will say, for you made the jump into entrepreneurship, becoming a coach. And so I'm curious, what was the passion? What was the burning desire for you to make that shift into that? I think we know where the perseverance came from, but what was that shift for you to have that passion? Was it always there and you discovered it? Or was it something that was sparked by someone?
Like I said, every decade something happens.
So if you're coming up to a decade,
right? I know, it's kind of scary. So, there, I was getting restless, and I went back. So, like I said, it only took about 2 years in being a strength coach that I was like, okay, I like this, I can do this, it's good, but it's kind of, what's my why? It's just how I guess it's how I'm wired to figure out, okay, what's the why behind what I do? And like I said, it was helping the young people learn the discipline and responsibility to accomplish a goal and become better leaders at whatever they do later in life and today and at that moment. But I was getting restless, went back to school, got a master's in organizational leadership. My wife's like, what are you going to do with it? I'm like, I'll let you know. So I have,
I have a
piece of paper, you know. And but I was like, I know I'm making a difference where I am, and if I shift to another location, it's going to be the same thing, different people, still making a difference. But what if I can help develop leaders, help people lead better at work, and therefore it helps them lead better at home, transforms homes, transforms communities, and help young people see that they're leaders not just for tomorrow but today. And it's like the why just evolved, that if I can help people lead better, then I'm going to help them transform homes and communities and businesses and lives, their own lives. You know, I that's the burden. That's the why. That's why I do what I do now. If I can help people at work, I can think of a client early on that in the financial sector, and we just worked for a short period of time together, one-on-one, and I actually met him through coaching our sons together, like sport coaching, baseball. He was good. I just kind of did what he said because he knew it's baseball. And he was just kind of distracted and everything. Hey, what's me? And we met together and everything for a while. And by the end, he was able to be more focused at work and more intentional, so he could be disengaged from work when it's time to be home. Because at the time, his kids were 8 and under, I think, you know, and even just to help one person be able to be fully present with his family and keep one more family together and whole. I mean, that makes a difference. But to expand that to people that are touching many lives, because if the leader's healthy and leading from a healthy spot, it'll trickle down in a positive way to the rest of the team, the rest of the organization. It's like on a sports team, the coach that's all about just wins, it creates a culture. But the coach that's about, yes, we're going to get the wins, but I'm just going to take care of my people. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a baseball coach, and I was like, hey, what's shifted for you? Because I know something shifted. And he's been they've won state, and they've been a state runner-up. And he's like, when I just quit worrying about what everybody else thought and performing, and just, these are kind of my words, but basically we just focus on we're a family. Our team is a family, and we're going to take care of each other. You know, and it's just making that shift from outcome to the people. You take care of the people, the outcome takes care of itself. And that applies in sports, that applies in business, that applies in every area of our life. The challenge for some of us is if we're overly task-oriented, we have to consciously remind ourselves it's about people, you know, and take care of them.
It's so good what you say, because I find myself as a task-driven person. Like, I'm people too, but I'm also very task, and it's very easy for me to forget about people, the people I'm supposed to be leading that I'm like dragging. Like, it's like I don't know. I just had this vision of, like, you know, it's when all the young kids go out and they have the rope and they're holding the rope, and the leader's like, okay, let's go over here. And like, there's a point as a leader, you have to understand you are guiding people along the way. You don't put the rope around their neck and start pulling them as fast as you can. There's 2 different outcomes that come from that. One is also jail time, but there is something really powerful about what you said, and I love that you said it, that we have to stop focusing on the outcome and focus on people, because we are so focused, especially here, you know, in the United States, we are focused a lot on outcome. And even with as entrepreneurs, we look at the products that we're putting together to serve people, and sometimes we go, well, the product's not good enough. It's not going to help enough people. Enough is that word that really discounts all the work that you've put into it up until that point, because it could serve someone, right? It's that perfection bug. And so I really love that you bring that up in terms of focusing on people versus focusing on outcome.
Can I add something to that?
No, of course.
Darn it.
Moving on. No, just
Well, I like this. This is a phrase that's popped up over the past few years in my mind. It's attention to be managed. Because if you're too people focused, we'll eventually
we'll get stuff
that's
down
a way
one
to
day.
kill a business.
Yeah.
But if you're so outcome focused, that's a way to kill a person. You know what I mean? So
and you will run out of people eventually.
Yes, you got it's a tension to manage between the people and the outcome, and depending, as we both know, depending on your wiring, you're gonna lean one way or another.
Yeah.
But because we can't. Yeah.
I love the tension that you put in there. It's kind of a rubber band of like, well, you can't go too far this way, otherwise it snaps, and you can't go too far this way, otherwise it's going to snap. Either way you go, you got to keep balance, but there also has to be tension in that, right?
Yeah.
It's so good. Now, you've mentioned your faith a number of times. I'm curious how you came to faith, like especially coming from a family that isn't religious from what I understand. How did you find your faith? How did you find Jesus? And on top of that, I'm curious of the role that Lee, your mentor, played early on, and how that has continued to really help you to blossom into a spiritual leader.
Well, like I said, I didn't grow up in church, but I grew up with great principled parents. They're of the generation, and I've recently talked to both of them about it and why that became a non-thing in their lives and everything. But my freshman year in high school, somebody came and talked to our football team, and then invited me to go to Burger King.
Great place.
Had a little Coca-Cola or whatever it was at Burger King, and he shared with me how to have a relationship with God. He shared these 4 principles. God loves me, I'm a sinner. Jesus died for me, and I need to put my faith in him. I'm like, okay, and I kneeled down at my bed. Like, it's nothing like amazing. I kneeled down at my bed, read this prayer, and no lightning struck or anything. I probably said that prayer like 9 times my freshman year in high school.
I don't know if it took.
Exactly.
I'm still messed up.
and then something did happen that made it click. I heard this guy. Remember the speaker, Jacob Aranza. I don't remember anything he said necessarily, except that he was talking about girls and relationships. So it got my freshman boy mind, paying attention. And that was when things kind of shifted, and I wanted to start reading the Bible. That's when I started becoming more of that floater, I'd say, because some of my better friends became people that before I would have picked on and thought I was better than and everything. We're talking about a long year, decades of a journey, and how does it influence? For me, I hate, just quite candidly, religion's dumb. Religion is me trying to be good enough to reach God, and I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have anything to do with that. It's about a relationship with God, that God loved me and you and whoever's watching and listening so much that he gave his only son to die for us. And at the core of the core of the core, and I don't really talk, and I'll say why in a second. I don't really talk this directly about my faith in this kind of a forum. But at the core of the core of the core, why I do is what I do is I want to know God and make God known, period. That's my ultimate why. Is know God and make him known. And if I can help people be better leaders, and I'm modeling principles that that are biblical, then that's what I want to help them see. And why I don't lead with that professionally is because I know me. I know I'm a stubborn jerk. I know I'm rude. I know I'm selfish. I know there's so many things that I know about how I can be because I'm human, that I'm like, if I lead and I'm like, oh, let me put a fish on my business card and tell everybody I'm a Christian, and then I do something because I'm bound to do something, not treat somebody right, not whatever, and then I don't want me to be the reason somebody doesn't get to know Jesus. If I speak his truth and that offends them from the Bible, then that's fine, whatever, that's cool. But if it's me being a religious jerk or whatever, that's why I mean, this is actually me being more candid than I normally am, because I don't want to be the reason people don't see the real Jesus. Hopefully people see the real Jesus through me somehow, some way. They treat them well, but I know I fail. I fail a lot. And being an entrepreneur, regardless of if a person knows Jesus or not, I don't know how you can be an entrepreneur or start something like that without faith of some sort.
Yeah.
Because it's just scary. It's just like
you don't know where your meal's coming from.
Okay, this is gonna work. So for me, my faith has been stretched and has grown, and for me, it's the business. It's not my business. It's ultimately God's business, and I love that. I hope that answered you without getting. I felt like I got a little preachy, but
no, I love it. I love it so much, and I love your candidness too, because there is really something about what you said about people that come across churchy. You can kind of smell them and how they present themselves, but there's something about the person that even though you may not know what they believe, there's a fragrance about them, not literal, like like wow,
they didn't take a shower.
Randy, you are definitely bathed in something today. No, but there is something about the person that lives their life in such a way that you look at them and you go, there's something different about you. I don't know what it is, but there's something different about you, and I 100% agree with you that is the way the believer should come across. We shouldn't have to use words. I don't remember who said it, but it was whenever preaching the gospel. What was it?
Preach the gospel at all times. Use words when necessary. That's what it is.
See, there's a reason why Randy's on, because he's way smarter than me. He remembers quotes and all those things.
I'm just older. I'm just older.
No, usually you forget things when you're older. But I truly do love that, and I love that at the core, what you said of everything is to know the Creator and to make him known. And I love that because, I'm taking a group right now through the book of Revelation, which is if you ever taken someone through the book of Revelation, it's very humbling when you're reading things. You're like, I don't know what this is. Let's look it up. I will say in Revelation, where it talks, at the very end of eternity and everyone's there before the throne, what is everyone doing? They're praising and worshiping God. And that's what we're supposed to do here on earth. We're supposed to praise and worship God as best as we can with the gifts and tools that he's been given us, which I think leads really well into a question I want to ask you. You have done some trips with your family with YWAM of serving, and there is something really cool getting to serve other people. And it doesn't necessarily have to be faith-based serving. It could be any kind of serving. I feel like there's a connection point when you're serving other people. You learn more about yourself because you forget about yourself. What are some of the things that you've learned about yourself as you've served other people, whether that's, in like a YWAM kind of situation or in other aspects of your life? Really easy questions, I know.
Right. I think I learned how self-centered I am. I learned how ungrateful I am. I remember, this was not with my family, but I remember I was going between my junior senior year in college, went to India, and we were doing sports performance stuff. It was a mission trip, and we're driving into where we're going to stay, and he's just telling us how people sleep on the streets just to catch the breeze of the cars going by, and being in New Delhi and somebody's nursing their child and begging at the same time, and it's just like how easily I forget all that I have. I was just talking to my son that, oh goodness, he didn't want to do an activity somewhere he was at because he didn't want creases in his shoes. And I'm like, bro, did you forget about that house we built in Mexico this summer for this single mom and her child? He's like, I know, first world problems. I'm like, yeah, first world problems. But it's just, we all forget. I'm no better than him. I forget so easily. So the different experiences with them, intentional ones with my boys, taking them to El Salvador when they were about 12, 13, with an organization that has a relationship with an orphanage, and them just getting able to have fun with these kids, and also just, I remember asking one of my sons as we're waiting on travel stuff, what was the biggest thing that impacted you? And he's like, I have so much. We have so much. And I mean, that there's so many other ways on the other levels from all the different experiences, but giving myself and my family that reminder of we need to be grateful. And also we need to have we don't have to go somewhere to give and to serve. We can give and serve where we are. And I definitely could stand modeling that better with my family in lots of different ways. My wife is amazing because she's just naturally so generous. I'm a little more stingy. So I gotta learn from her.
I love that though, because I'm right there with you. I think those of us who are honest with ourselves, we look at how we show up and we say, man, I just missed the mark so much. Like, I know I could be better than this, and yet I tell people to be better than this. Like, you know, last week I started a community page thing, which, you know, I'll talk about that in a moment near the end for those of you listening. But like, in the back of my head, I was like, oh man, I got to teach a business principle, or, you know, what am I going to do? And I'm like, I don't have time for this. Like, there's too much going on. And I was like, oh, maybe I should just talk about scheduling. And so I literally got on and I was talking about scheduling for like 15 minutes of talking about how do you schedule things and using block scheduling, things that I know I've done in the past. It's fallen off. And because I was teaching it, I said, I have to live this out. And I went back to my schedule. I blew up my entire schedule a couple days ago, and I started putting the pieces back together going, okay, these are the most important things in my life. And I 100% agree with you that, man, we may fall short a lot of the time in like what we expect of ourselves, but to do your best every single day truly is important. And I wanted to comment one other thing that you said about first world problems. First world problems are self-serve problems. When we have first world problems, they're essentially problems that are self-serving to us. They're problems that we think are the most important things because it serves us. Marriage is an interesting thing. Talking about selfishness, you get married and all of a sudden you realize there's this other person that you actually co-pilot life with. What were some of those earlier lessons that you discovered about yourself, besides being selfish? Because I think most of us can easily answer we're selfish. What were some of those lessons that you learned early on in your marriage, and maybe some of the things that you're learning right now in your marriage? After, how many years you've been married? You've been married for
24 as of 24. August.
Woo-hoo! Yep. So early marriage lessons to lessons that you're kind of learning right now.
Early marriage lessons. First word that pops into my mind is sarcasm.
I don't know what you mean, Randy. What kind of sarcasm? No.
So, yeah. I for some reason that popped into my mind, and remembering how we were, I have this, maybe I have a dry sense of humor. I can be kind of sarcastic. And I would use it as a weapon in our relationship, and I had to learn that that's just not good for us. It's not, and it is on me because my wife has become a better fighter, and that's a good thing because I would steamroll and be a big bully. The other thing is not having to be right all the time. I asked a couple, I was maybe somewhere, I was under 10 years and I'm at this thing and meet this couple. They've been married for a long time. And I always ask people that are married for a long time, what's your secret? 9 times out of 10, at least the word forgiveness comes up from one of them, or patience. But the guy was like, yeah, once I figured out after the first 10 years that I didn't need to be right all the time, our marriage got a lot better. And that just kind of clicked. Today, I think the craziness of 2020 brought us together closer. I think probably for everybody, it either did one or the other.
Brought you closer and then repelled you, or he brought you close and you go, yes. Oh, I love you.
and also, I think just more and more me learning to appreciate and value, because we are, like, on paper, we are exact opposites. Like, exact opposites on paper, not
She's
just
got
like,
a wet sense of humor. She's really good looking. No.
Yeah, she's good looking and I'm not. And I mean, we could go on and on.
She's super patient. Yeah.
Yeah. We could go on and on. But, and that's, in the Rocky theory, she's got gabs, I got gabs, together we ain't got no gabs. That's a good thing. But me learning how to appreciate those differences and value them, and how her strengths and my strengths together can create something great that we'll figure out, whatever that is. Because and also just in continuing to get to know my wife. It's not like we're both humans that are changing and evolving, and I don't want to be complacent in our relationship that, well, you're just that. I want it to grow, and that takes me getting unplugged from everything going on in my head to just listen to my wife and really enjoy the relationship with her, because it's not going to be too long because of the stage of life I'm in, where, all 4 of our parents are around right now, but it's not going to be too long until they're not, and then we're really going to feel old.
Then you will be the old parent, even more so than now.
we're both very fortunate to have both of our parents are around and have both been married for 50 years. So to see that, and that alone is a feat, and neither one of them, they're not like amazing marriages, but they're also not like just tolerating each other. They enjoy each other, and they're both great models in different ways.
I love what you say, because so many people need to hear this, that there is no such thing as a perfect marriage. All marriages require effort, and the moment you stop putting effort in, that's when it begins to fail. And the one thing that I love and appreciate so much about you, Randy, is your desire and love to grow and to improve things in every aspect of life, whether that's professionally or personally, relationally, spiritually. It's where you are today is not good enough for tomorrow. And so you're constantly learning, you're constantly growing and learning how to serve one another. One of the things I wanted to double back on, because this is so good what you said about sarcasm, not using sarcasm as a weapon, because I can relate to that so well. I am super sarcastic. I have done really, I probably didn't do it well today because I love Randy so much. So I'm just going to give him all of my sarcasm today. But I am curious. So sarcasm can very often be used as a weapon. I'm curious, though, do you think that sarcasm can also be used as a tool? Because that is a gift for some people, of being kind of snarky. Do you think that can be also used for a tool, or do you think that most of the time, like 99.999% of the time, it's used as a weapon?
I think if it's a tool, it's probably accidental, maybe. Like in the sense of, like I spend a lot of time with young people. Sarcasm's like their language. That's just their language. So
it's passed down from generation to generation.
right. I think if they know, you just gotta be careful, because I'll be sarcastic and then people don't know me, read it wrong, and then I end up hurting a person. But sometimes that sarcasm can make you more approachable if the sarcasm is used like more self-deprecating than it is. Hey, look at his purple nose. I don't know why I got a thing with purple today, but
I'm just glad you didn't say, "Hey, look at Nathan's orange nose." So,
then you'd be like,
oh no, the Cheeto bag again.
no, that if that's the way that it can make, it can lighten the mood sometimes too, like in a tense situation when used appropriately. It can lighten the mood and possibly, I think of like a situation where things are getting tense and somebody just drops a sarcastic kind of joke and it's like, what the heck?
Are you
and
in this
conversation? Shifts the mood,
yeah.
And everybody's able to kind of take a deep breath unconsciously and regroup and continue the conversation. So, in that sense, I think you just got to be prudent.
Yeah.
Because you may have the greatest intentions, but it's heard. I don't know if have you heard the story about the hair and the shoe?
Tell it.
Okay, so there's this event, and this man's speaking to all these men. It's all the men in the room. He's like, okay, every man in the room, it's a stadium full of people. He's like, every man, pull a hair, if you have one. Okay, pull a hair. Okay, now drop that hair. Okay, now everybody take off a shoe. And this is a stadium full of men. Everybody takes off the shoe. Okay, now everybody drop your shoe at once. And he's like, the hair is what you said. The shoe is what they heard. Ooh. And that's how sarcasm can be. Like, we may think we're saying one thing, but the other person, regardless of gender or anything, may hear it totally different. And that's when, like, 99% of the problems that occur in any relationship, any organization, any team, the communication problem occurs. I said this.
Go ahead.
You heard boom.
I hope that when you heard him tell that, if you felt your stomach drop when he talked about the shoe dropping, that is a moment where you need to do a little self-reflection right now. And I'm in that, because you said that and I was like, oh, the shoe dropped. Oh. When you said that, if you listening right now had that feeling, take a moment afterwards. Don't just go to the next podcast. Don't go to the next thing you're listening to. Stop for a moment and ask yourself, how can I be more intentional with the way that I'm talking? Especially if you're naturally sarcastic like Randy and I. It's really important, because you can truly tear someone down, especially if it's consistent with small things over and over. Like I used to tease my wife all the time about just the small little things of, can't you cook? Like, what's going on? To the point, like, my wife couldn't cook to cook herself out of a paper bag. Like, it was pretty bad when we started. She used to make top ramen, and she used to use canned diced tomatoes for spaghetti. She makes amazing food today, people. Like, don't hear my heart. Hear my heart. She is an amazing cook, because she is cook. She married me. She's a Nathan Cook, for those of you that are slow. But or you're like, who the heck is this Nathan Cook guy? But it truly is an impactful way that we need to think about the way that we communicate. And truly, I love what you said about sarcasm. The best sarcasm, I would say, is self-deprecating sarcasm. Turn it on yourself. Don't use it on other people. Turn it on yourself. Man, Randy, there's so many different things that you've said that are so good today. I hope that you guys go back and listen to this over and over. There's so much meat. There's so much gold in our conversation that we've had. I do have one more question here before we kind of jump off, Randy. But for those of you listening, I want to encourage you, go check out all of Randy's information. It's going to be in the show notes. Reach out to him, check on what he's doing. He's got some great opportunities for you to connect, to learn some great leadership principles in your life and how to serve people. And for those of you that want to be more connected with the podcast, last week we launched the More Than Before community calls, 3 calls a week where you can get on early morning with me, and I'm going to be doing some teaching, and then we're going to jump into questions. If you have questions about the teaching or questions about life, I'm going to be coaching you to help you improve to experience more than before. You've heard me say that a million times. Hopefully it's bleeding out of your ears by now. But Randy, mentorship has been such a huge part of your life, especially in terms of identity. I think mentorship really does help us to become more of who we are created to be. You know, as parents, as leaders, I'm curious, how is it that you currently take people under your wing and mentor them and teach them? Because I think a lot of people feel like they're unqualified to teach other people. I don't have a great story. I don't have a degree in theology. I don't have a degree in fill in the blank. We disqualify ourselves. How do you serve other people, and how do you encourage people that feel like they're not equipped to serve others?
Well, I'll start with the second by saying, at the end of the day, every one of us influences somebody. We're always influencing somebody in a positive or a negative direction, period. End of story, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. Whether it's a neighbor, a person in our home, a person at the office, we're always impacting the life of another. How it's not like I formally mentor anyone.
I'm going to mentor you right now.
I am going to mentor you. And I think, well, at the end of the day, they got to, the phrase, the idea that the teacher appears when the student's ready. They got to be ready to be mentored. I think about, as a parent, those are the 3 biggest people I'm mentoring. It's overwhelming. I have 3 sons, and they look at me. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a dad? What does it mean to be a husband? And I know me, and it's overwhelming. There's, and like I think I said it earlier that, I'm at that stage of life where I'm like, I look in a room, and I'm not the oldest person in the room, but I'm definitely not the youngest. I got older kids, and it's like, okay. So sometimes it's just looking for mentoring moments. It's a tricky question for me, because it's like, for me, I just kind of listen for the whisper, the nudge, and sometimes I get these random thoughts that I'm like, this may sound weird, and I just share that thought with the person. And I play within our church, helping with the youth, and we got a younger youth pastor, and I don't see myself as a mentor, because at the end of the day, I'm like, you're the leader, so you got to lead. But who knows? Maybe I am in some way informally. I think for me, if I'm seeing myself as your mentor, when you haven't been asking me to mentor you, that's a little bit arrogant of me. Like, even with my own children, I don't see myself necessarily as their mentor unless they want to be mentored by me, because then I'm just a lecturer.
Yeah.
Which, it's got to happen organic. And I got a sense that they're coming to me and they want some kind of advice from me, but otherwise it's just looking for those random opportunities to maybe drop a little truth in someone's life.
I think that's I think you nailed it perfectly, especially when you said looking for the mentoring moment. Each and every one of us has something that we can give to someone else, whether that's something from our own life of the stupid mistakes that we've made. Randy and I have both made many of those, so if you want to learn about those, go and connect with us. But I think 100%, we need to look for the mentoring moment in our life. When that person is ready, be ready to step in and say something, to speak some life into people. Not beat them over the head, but speak life into people. Randy, thank you so much for jumping on. For all of you listening, comment, let us know what you loved about this. What was your favorite part about what Randy said? Maybe it was some of his sarcasm. Maybe it was something stupid I said. Probably something stupid I said was probably your favorite thing. I don't know. But until next time, remember to be more, see more, and experience more than before.